Imagine this. Not that someone leaves you, not that someone breaks your heart, not that you lose the people you love. Imagine something quieter, something so subtle that most people would never notice it happening. Imagine you live an entire life without ever being loved. Not because people hate you, not because you did something wrong, but because somehow love simply never finds you. You are still born, you still breathe your first breath. The doctors still clean you, weigh you, wrap you in a small blanket. The world welcomes another human life. Everything appears normal, except for one thing. No pair of eyes ever looks at you with that unexplainable softness people call love. No heartbeat ever calms because you're finally safe in someone's arms. No one whispers your name as if it is the most important word they know. At first, none of this matters because you don't know what you're missing. A fish doesn't know it's underwater. A child doesn't know what has been taken away if it was never there to begin with. So life begins, you learn to crawl, you stumble through your first steps, you discover that the floor is hard, that rain is cold, that laughter exists. But one lesson arrives long before you have words for it. The world does not reach back. Most babies learn that crying brings comfort, a warm hand, a familiar voice, a gentle smile. Your cries simply disappear into the room. Eventually, you stop crying. Not because your needs disappear, because your hope does. It is one of the first survival skills you ever learn. People often imagine loneliness as an empty apartment or a quiet Friday night. But loneliness begins much earlier than that. It begins the first time your heart reaches outward, and nothing reaches back. As the years pass, you become the child teachers describe as easy. You don't cause problems, you don't ask for much, you never interrupt. Adults admire children like you. Such a mature kid. So independent. So well behaved. What they mistake for maturity is adaptation. You've simply learned that asking changes nothing, so you stop asking. At school, you begin noticing things that seem invisible to everyone else. A father kneels to tie his daughter's untied shoe before she even notices it. A mother brushes dirt from her son's jacket after he falls during recess. Parents wait outside the school gates, waving before their children even see them. These moments happen every day, small, forgettable, ordinary to everyone else. To you, they feel like watching a language you were never taught. You understand what they're doing, you just don't understand why. Sometimes another child runs into someone's arms after school. They laugh so hard they can barely breathe. You wonder what that feels like. Not the hug itself, the certainty behind it. The certainty that someone was always coming back. You walk home alone. Not because you prefer it, because eventually preferences become habits, and habits become identity. Children are remarkable survivors. If something hurts long enough, they stop calling it pain, they call it normal. So you convince yourself you don't need anyone. You become proud of solving your own problems. You pat your own scraped knees. You celebrate your own birthdays. You comfort yourself after nightmares. Piece by piece, you build a version of yourself that expects nothing. It's impressive in a way, but every wall that protects you from disappointment also blocks the warmth that might have found you. Years pass, you grow taller, your voice changes. The world expects you to become someone. No one asks whether anyone helped you become that person. Teenage years arrive like a storm. Classmates begin forming friendships that seem effortless. Secrets are exchanged between lockers. Weekend plans fill every conversation. Someone saves a seat for someone else at lunch. Someone waits after class because they don't want to walk home alone. You watch these rituals from the edge of the room, close enough to see them, never close enough to belong. It's strange. You're surrounded by hundreds of people every day, yet your life feels as silent as an empty house. One afternoon, you notice something. A friend tells another friend, "Text me when you get home." Such a simple sentence. 4 ordinary words, yet they stay with you for days, because hidden inside them is something you've never experienced. Someone wants to know that another person arrived safely. Someone's existence matters enough to be checked on. You realize no one has ever asked that of you, not once. That night, lying awake, you try to imagine what it must feel like to occupy space in someone else's mind, to be missed, to be expected, to be remembered. The thought is almost impossible to picture. It's like trying to imagine a color you've never seen, so instead you stop imagining. You tell yourself people don't need love. They need discipline, success, money, purpose. That's what the world rewards, isn't it? Maybe connection is just another fairy tale people tell themselves. Maybe needing others is weakness. It's a comforting idea, not because it's true, because if love doesn't matter, then you haven't lost anything at all. You cling to that belief for years, without realizing that every human heart has a quiet hunger. You can ignore it, you can bury it beneath work, you can distract it with achievement, but you cannot erase it, because somewhere beneath every ambition, beneath every goal, beneath every carefully constructed version of yourself, there is still the child standing outside the school gates, waiting for someone who never came. The years keep moving, whether you're ready or not. School becomes college, college becomes work. Faces come and go with the seasons, names fade, buildings change. Your reflection grows older. Life keeps asking you the same question in different forms. Who are you becoming? You have an answer. You become capable, reliable, disciplined, the kind of person who never needs help. People admire that. They call you focused, driven, independent. They don't realize independence can become a hiding place. Because if no one expects anything from you, they can never disappoint you. You learn to fill every empty hour. Your calendar becomes crowded. Work, exercise, projects, books, long evenings scrolling through strangers' lives, anything that keeps the silence from becoming too loud. And for a while, it works. There are promotions, new apartments, better clothes, a growing bank account. Small victories arrive one after another. Each one feels important for a day, maybe two. Then life returns to exactly what it was before. You tell yourself the next achievement will be different, the next salary, the next city, the next milestone. Surely happiness is just one more step away, so you keep climbing. Humans are remarkably good at chasing horizons. We convince ourselves that fulfillment lives somewhere ahead of us, just beyond the next accomplishment, just beyond the next version of ourselves. But some absences refuse to be outrun. One evening, after months of working toward a promotion, your phone rings. You got it. The position, the raise, everything you wanted. You thank your manager. You hang up. You stand in the middle of your apartment. The room is completely still. No footsteps racing toward you. No arms wrapping around your shoulders. No voice saying, "I knew you could do it." You smile anyway, out of habit. Then you realize something strange. There is no one to call, not because everyone is busy, because no one has ever occupied that place in your life. The moment you've imagined for years passes in complete silence. Success, you've discovered, sounds very different when no one is there to celebrate it with you. The next morning, life continues as if nothing happened. People congratulate you, they shake your hand, they tell you you've earned it, you thank them, you mean it. But praise fades quickly when it has nowhere to land, because compliments are not the same as connection, respect is not the same as love, being noticed is not the same as being known. You begin paying attention to small things again, not grand romantic gestures, ordinary moments. A couple arguing over what to cook for dinner, a father asleep on a train while his daughter rests against his shoulder, two old friends laughing so hard they have to stop walking. Once you would have walked past these scenes without thinking. Now they feel like windows into another world, a world that has always existed beside yours, close enough to see, never close enough to enter. You wonder if everyone else knows how extraordinary these moments really are, or if people only appreciate them after imagining life without them. The strangest part isn't the loneliness anymore, it's the uncertainty. You don't know whether something is missing, or whether you've simply invented the idea that something should be there. After all, how can you measure the absence of something you've never experienced? Then one afternoon, something unexpected happens. You're sitting in a cafe, nothing remarkable. Rain taps softly against the windows. People come and go carrying conversations with them. At the table beside you sits an elderly couple. Neither of them speaks very much. The man slowly unfolds a newspaper. His hands tremble with age. Without saying a word, the woman reaches across the table and steadies the page for him. He doesn't thank her. She doesn't look for gratitude. The gesture lasts only a few seconds. Then they continue drinking their coffee. Most people in the cafe never notice. You can't stop thinking about it. Not because it was dramatic, because it wasn't. Love, you realize, rarely announces itself. It lives inside habits, inside tiny acts repeated so many times they become invisible. A hand resting on another hand, remembering how someone takes their coffee, waiting before crossing the street because someone walks a little slower than they used to. These are not extraordinary moments. They are ordinary moments, made meaningful by the presence of another person. For the first time, you begin to understand what you've been searching for. It was never excitement, never perfection, never endless happiness. It was the quiet certainty that someone else's life had become intertwined with yours, that your joys mattered to them, that your fears mattered, that if you disappeared tomorrow, someone's world would become smaller. The realization doesn't break you. It settles over you like evening, slowly, silently, almost gently. You walk home through streets filled with strangers. Every apartment window glows with its own story. Some families are eating dinner. Some friends are watching a movie together. Someone is apologizing. Someone is forgiving. Someone is saying, "I'm home." The words echo in your mind, home. Perhaps home was never a place. Perhaps it was always the feeling of being expected, of knowing that somewhere, someone was unconsciously listening for the sound of your footsteps. You reach your own door, you unlock it. The apartment is exactly as you left it. The air hasn't changed, the furniture hasn't moved, nothing is wrong. And yet, for the first time in your life, the silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like an answer to a question you had spent years trying not to ask. You begin to notice it everywhere, not love itself, its fingerprints. A lunch packed before someone leaves for work, a message that says, "Did you get home okay?" Someone buying 2 coffees without having to ask what the other person wants. A father carrying a sleeping child from the car without waking her. A daughter walking slower because her mother can no longer keep up. The world is filled with these tiny exchanges. Most people barely see them. They happen too often. They seem too ordinary. But once you've imagined a life without them, they become impossible to ignore. You start wondering when life became so focused on achievement. As children, people ask what you want to be: a doctor, an artist, an engineer, an entrepreneur. No one asks, who do you hope will be sitting beside you when you're 80? No one asks, whose voice do you hope you'll recognize in the dark? Somehow we spend decades preparing people to build a life without teaching them how to share one. And maybe that's why so many people arrive exactly where they wanted to be, only to discover they brought no one with them. Science has spent years studying what poets understood long before laboratories existed. A human being is not designed to exist alone. A newborn cannot survive without care. A child learns who they are by seeing themselves reflected in another person's eyes. Even as adults, something remarkable happens when we feel genuinely connected. Our breathing slows, stress begins to fade. The brain releases chemicals that quiet fear and strengthen trust. The body relaxes. Not because the world has become safer, but because someone is facing it with us. Connection does something success never can. It tells the nervous system, you don't have to survive this alone. Perhaps that's why loneliness feels so exhausting. It isn't simply sadness. It's the constant belief that every burden belongs to you and you alone. Every fear, every failure, every difficult day, carried without witness. There is a strange kind of weight in that. Not the weight of pain, the weight of invisibility. Because suffering changes when someone else sees it. A sentence spoken aloud somehow becomes lighter. A grief shared becomes more bearable. Not because it disappears, but because it is no longer yours alone. Imagine carrying a heavy box for miles. Now imagine someone places a hand underneath it. They haven't removed the weight. They've simply reminded you you aren't carrying it by yourself. Maybe that's what love has always been. Not the removal of suffering, the refusal to let someone suffer unseen. You think back over your imagined life. There were no dramatic tragedies, no great betrayals, no spectacular heartbreaks. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary existence. You studied, you worked, you paid your bills, you grew older. People might even have called it successful. But there is a difference between existing and being deeply known. One fills time, the other fills life. Eventually, old age arrives, not suddenly, quietly. Your hair changes first, then your hands. Then the mirror begins showing someone you don't remember becoming. You have learned almost everything life wanted to teach you: how to earn money, how to solve problems, how to recover from disappointment, how to endure silence, but one lesson never came: what it feels like to be loved without having to earn it. One afternoon, you sit beside a window as the sun begins to set. The room glows with that soft golden light that only lasts a few minutes. You watch people outside, a young couple arguing over directions before they both start laughing, a little boy reaching for his grandmother's hand, a man carrying groceries while his daughter proudly insists on helping even though the bag is almost empty. Life continues, messy, loud, beautiful. You realize something then. Love was never the grand speeches, never the expensive gifts, never the perfect relationships shown in films. Love was hidden in all the moments that looked too ordinary to matter: waiting, listening, remembering, forgiving, choosing the same person again on thousands of ordinary days. Without those moments, life still functions, the sun still rises, cities still grow, people still work. The world keeps turning. But something essential disappears: not excitement, meaning. Because achievements answer the question, what did you accomplish? Love answers a different question: who was there when you did? In the end, it isn't the size of your house that comforts you. It isn't the title on your business card. It isn't the number in your bank account. It is the memory of a voice calling your name. A hand reaching for yours without thinking, someone who knew the version of you that the rest of the world never saw. Perhaps that is why the greatest fear is not dying. It is leaving this world without ever having truly belonged to another heart. So if you've ever been loved by a parent, a friend, a sibling, a partner, or even by one person who stayed when they didn't have to, you have experienced something extraordinary, something so common that millions overlook it every single day. And if you haven't, if love has felt distant, or absent, or impossible to find, remember this: the deepest human need is not perfection, it is connection. Not to be admired, not to be envied, simply to be seen, to be understood, to know that somewhere in this impossibly large world, your absence would leave a silence in someone else's life. Because in the end, a life without love is not defined by what it loses, it is defined by what it never gets the chance to become. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy: not that love guarantees happiness, it doesn't. Love can disappoint you, it can break your heart, it can leave scars that take years to heal. But a heart that has been broken by love has still known what it means to matter. A heart that has never been loved carries a different kind of ache. Not the pain of losing something beautiful, but the silence of never hearing the music at all. So before you chase another promotion, before you spend another year believing success alone will make life feel complete, look around. Call the friend you've been meaning to call. Stay a little longer at the dinner table. Tell your parents you appreciate them while you still can. Hold someone's hand without looking at your phone. Say, "I'm glad you're here," because one day none of these moments will seem ordinary. They will become the story of your life. And when that final chapter arrives, you probably won't remember every paycheck you earned or every award hanging on the wall. You'll remember the people who waited for you, the people who forgave you, the people who laughed until they cried with you, the people who made an ordinary Tuesday feel like it mattered. Because in the end, love was never something added to life. It was the thing that made life feel alive.